That's okay. What we will do is cede the floor to you so you can go ahead and introduce yourself as well as kick us off.
Okay, because I think you streamed this off. Good morning. How you
Great. I'm excellent in you.
doing? Thank you for being here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I guess we got some technology issues going on, but we'll work through all of that. But I think it's very, very important that we have these types of conversations. So I met Attorney Reed on a Zoom call that was talking about the property tax and the proposal of how we look at school property taxes. So I asked all of you all to bring your tax bill so that you can kind of really see the district, because we have 6 school districts in the village of Broadview. And so that you know what exactly school district your property taxes goes toward. And so we have to look at what's feasible for us as we move forward. And I really enjoyed the conversation that they had. And on the Zoom call, because it was Zoom, I was like, well, can you come to the village of Broadview? And so they agreed to do it. And I'm happy that they did, because it's a wealth of information. I learned some things, and I hope that you all learned some things as well. So I asked our technology department to be here today so that we can stream it for those that cannot participate in person, but they want to get the information, and we'll be able to go back. And this video will be on our website so that people have the information. So I get a lot of calls about why are my property taxes going up? And I always refer back to look at your property tax bill. I even brought mine, so who all got their property tax bill last week? And who all saw a big number? And that's the first thing I talk about. And so I always go back to the school districts, our library, and our park districts, because they have the leverage to levy your taxes. And so it's under the assumption that it's the village of Broadview that's raising taxes when it's not even us. It's not us. And so I want you all and to encourage and to empower you all to be able to go to these different taxing bodies and say, do not raise the tax levy, because it's an impact on our property taxes. How many of you all have children still in the school system, public school system? So it's 3 of us that have, 3 that's in the audience that have children that's in the school system. And I believe in public education, but I don't have any children in the public education, but the bulk of my taxes go to school taxes. And so I pay attention to that. I go to these board meetings. I get up and make public comment as it relates to what's fair and transparent to the community as we look at property taxes, but the attorney is going to go through some real in-depth information that's going to really blow your mind. And so I'm challenging you all today and in the future, just hold people accountable to our dollars, because I know I will. So, Mr. Attorney, I'll turn it back over to you. And thank you, Cassandra, for being here. She's a former trustee in the village of Olympia Field, so she's doing some great work in the field, so stay with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to dive right in, and thank you, Mayor Thompson, and thank you all of you for coming out on a beautiful Saturday morning. So my name is Mario A. Reed, and I'm an attorney who is licensed here in the state of Illinois. Our firm is located in South Holland, Illinois, and I'm originally from Park Forest, Illinois. So I attended John Marshall Law School, where I got my Juris Doctorate, and I've been working in the area of government, but specifically with the Cook County Recorder of Deeds Office. I was the head of the property fraud unit for 5 years, and then I assisted the Honorable Clerk Yarborough, who is a Proviso Township staple, in her transition to the clerk's office. And then in 2019, I went into private practice, where I am a property tax appeal attorney, estate planning attorney, as well as probate and real estate. So all day, every day, I focus on property issues. And one of the reasons why I became so passionate about property taxes was because back in 2015, when I was looking to purchase a home, I wanted to return to my hometown of Park Forest. But I could not return to Park Forest because Park Forest has the highest property taxes in the United States of America. There's no other municipality in the entire country which has a higher property tax rate than Park Forest.
It's higher than River Forest?
It is higher than every city, whatever city you name, it's going to be higher. So to kind of put that into perspective, when you say higher than River Forest, for some reason you think that River Forest has a high property tax rate. Does anyone know how to find out what a municipality's property tax rate is? So this is the kind of information that we as homeowners, we definitely need to know. because here it is that you're saying River Forest, thinking that it's high, but it's not going to be all that high. So anybody who has access to the internet can go to the Cook County Clerk's website, or you can just go to Google and you can type in Cook County Clerk Tax Rate Extension Report. Every single year, the Cook County Clerk's Office publishes the tax rate extension report. So once you go to this website, you can look at any single year, going all the way back to 2007. So just click on, in this case, 2022. This report came out Halloween, so this is a brand new report. And this report shows you every single tax rate throughout Cook County. So we don't have to guess about what River Forest is paying or what Broadview or Bellwood or Maywood. This information is public. It's our tax dollars, and we need to know what's going on. So in order to save us some time, we're just going to hit Control F, and we're going to type in River Forest. And then it's on page 61. We're going to scroll down to page 61, and we're going to look to see what River Forest's property tax rate is. Now, my guess is that they're going to be somewhere in the 15% range, because that's pretty much standard for Proviso Township, is that you all, for the most part, are in the 15s. So River Forest, nope, so it's even less. River Forest is at a very low 11%, 11.045%. And when I say really low, that is because Park Forest is, and because we're already right here, I'll just go to it. Park Forest's property tax rate is 43.12. 43.12. 11. So,
Is that because old people live there?
great question. So, so the question was, is that because old people live there? So the answer is no. Old people thankfully live everywhere. There is no place in the state of Illinois that old people do not live. And that's a good thing. We want old people to live as long as possible. The reason why that is because of one reason and one reason only. And that is the state of Illinois is not contributing their fair share to our public school education. And that's the reason why we are having this meeting on today. That is the takeaway. So if you walk away with nothing else, please know the state of Illinois is presently not contributing its fair share toward our public school education. That's the reason why your property taxes are as high as they are. Wherever you live, your property tax bill is comprised of usually several different taxing bodies. As Mayor Thompson pointed out, you have the public libraries, you have mosquito abatement, you have Cook County Health and Hospitals, you have Cook County agencies, you have your local municipality. But out of all of those different taxing bodies, no line item is larger than our public schools. For those of you who have your tax bill, you can pull it out, go ahead and break that property tax bill open, and the second installment is the one that's most important because it shows you the specific breakdown. Thank you kindly. Appreciate it. So on this property, and you can hold on to one because you have 2 pins, which is not good. Yeah, so that's not, we'll talk, because you need to, I need to adjust that. Okay, so on that property tax bill, the second installment shows the specific line items and where the money is going. The first installment, which is the blue one, it does not show that, aside from the fact that it shows the actual dollars that are going. That one's a little bit tougher to read. I don't recommend using that one. The second installment, the yellow one, this is the most valuable one because we get to see Where is the money going? So when you look at this tax bill for the 2022 tax, we want to look at in the middle column that says 2022 percentage. That's the most important column because this is going to tell us what are we spending our money on. So when you look at that middle column of 2022 percentage, what is the largest percentage out of all of the different items? School taxes. And what's the percentage? So, perfect. So someone said 64 and someone said 65. Does anyone know why it's different? So the reason is because there can be 3 people all in Broadview that have 3 different numbers. And that's because it's based on your specific school district. So there are multiple different school districts in every single municipality. I grew up in Park Forest, and I attended completely different schools than individuals who lived on the south side of Park Forest. I was in 162, they were in 163. The property tax rate in Park Forest, where I grew up, is 38%. The property tax rate in Park Forest, where Ritchie's High School used to be, is 47%. Your school district dictates your property tax rate. And that's because, as we're seeing, 65% of this tax bill is going to the public schools. So if your bill goes up, it's because the schools are needing and asking for more money. Thank you. So any questions about that part? Yes, ma'am.
Well, mine is 55.94.
I doubt that. Let's take a look.
I don't have my glasses.
You were right. Yes, yours is 55.94. And that's because you are a part of a different school district. However, so this is perfect because this is Broadview as well. So that means that there's a great disparity because that's 10%. Yours is even less. Are you in Broadview? Wow, this is remarkable. So Broadview apparently has several different school districts. Right.
Is this to my advantage, being 55%?
So great question. The question is to this advantage, and I see your hand, and we'll get your question as well. So it's not to any of our advantage. Not a single one of us is it to our advantage that the school district accounts for more than 50% of our property tax bill. And the reason is because how many people here have children in the school districts? There were 3. 3 people raised their hand. So if there are only 3 of us who have children in the district, why then should our public schools make up the largest portion of our property tax bill? That's not good. Furthermore, if the majority of our tax bill is going to our public schools, that means that the quality of our schools is based on the amount of income in our local communities. And that's not good because do you think that there's more money in Broadview or is there more money in North Lake? And it's going to be more, right? Do you think there's more money in Hillside or more money in Hinsdale? Hinsdale. Is there more money in, what else, Maywood? Or is there more money in Oak Brook? Oak Brook. So if the majority of the money that pays for our public schools comes from the local community, is Broadview going to have better schools or is Northfield going to have better schools? Northfield is. Is Maywood going to have better schools or is Oak Brook going to have better schools? Oak Brook. That's the problem. That is the reason why our property tax bills are as high as they are and our schools are underfunded. So the young lady in the back had a question with the glasses.
I was just wondering how they base the percentages of the taxes that you pay towards the school. So like if all of the township of, let's say, Willowbrook, now we know it's big money out there, right? Does it matter how many schools are in the district or how many districts are in that township?
Great question.
Is it based off the number of districts or the number of schools? Or I'm not sure how that works.
So the question is, how do they, and they, being the school districts, come up with the amount of money that's needed that then determines what our property tax bills are? So the answer is very straightforward, and it's as simple as can be. It's based on how many kids there are. So remember how we always hear that it's important for the kids to show up for the first day of school to be counted? We've always heard that. I remember as a little boy hearing that, the Bud Billiken Day Parade, they'd advertise and say, go to school on the first day. Well, they're right. It's 100% correct because depending upon how many children there are, that then determines how much money the schools need. And we can find out that information as well. Another website that I want for everybody to be familiar with is IllinoisReportCard.com. IllinoisReportCard.com. This is an incredibly important website that's a public website that your tax dollars are funding that you need to be aware of. Because to answer your question, so you said that Willowbrook is going to have big money, and of course their schools ideally will have more. So we're going to take a look at the amount of money that Broadview's high school needs. I believe it's District 203? 209. Excellent, thank you. So all you do is just type in HSD, and that's for high school district 209. And that brings up Proviso Township High School District. So this is going to tell us all of the information in a very quick snapshot. There are 3 schools in Proviso Township. My mother actually graduated from Proviso East. It was many years ago, though, many years. So how much money does Proviso Township High School need? Well, according to the Illinois State Board of Education, they need $80 million. That's the amount of money that Proviso Township High School needs. And that's based on how many students they have. So based on how many students they have and that district average spending per student, which is $18,000, that's terrible. That number is abysmal. They're saying for every student, we need $18,000 to educate them. When we pull up Willowbrook or we pull up Hinsdale or New Trier, that number is going to possibly be double. But at a minimum, yeah. Okay, yeah, so we'll take a look at 208 next. But $18,000 is a very low number. In the state of Illinois, we spend $33,000 per incarcerated individual every year. So in order for us to jail an incarcerated individual, it's $33,000. And that was as of 2015 when I was working at the jail. Now I imagine it's more. But $18,000 per student. $80 million is the amount of money that Proviso Township High School District needs to just be adequate. Turn the lights on, pay our teachers, make sure that the funding is there for extracurricular activities. They need $80 million. But last year, they got $56 million, which is 70% to budget. That's $24 million short. What kind of education can we expect for our children to be receiving coming up $24 million short? Well, we can see it. The graduation rate was 88%. And you kind of shrug saying that that's okay. When we pull up the other school districts, we'll see it's nothing like that. Yes, question back here. Hold on.
I was just going to I was just going to ask, can you repeat those statistics that you just quoted?
Yes. So the District of Proviso Township, which is District 209, they had an adequacy target budget, how much money they needed to run their school district? 80 million. Yes, 80 million. However, they only received 56 million, which is 70% to their budget. They're only receiving $18,000 per student.
So
That's
what,
their per
what do
pupil.
they mean by 19% mobility?
Yes, so where it says 19% mobility, 19% of the students are moving in and out of the school district. That's terrible. Yeah, so 1 out of 5 students are coming in or leaving, and oftentimes that's because they're not getting the educational experience that the parents desire, which is good on the parents, because if they're not getting the experience they need, they do need to take them out, but it's bad on the school district because they're not giving what it is that's necessary. And again, if you're coming up short $24 million, it's not the fault of the teachers, it's not the fault of the administrators, it's because there simply isn't enough money to do what needs to be done. Yes, ma'am.
It sounds like the less money that the people have in these different neighborhoods, the less that they fund us.
Exactly.
That's not
Great,
fair.
great comment. So I could not have articulated that any better. That's the reason why we're here. That's the reason why we're doing these workshops all across the state. Because so frequently, before people attend these workshops, why is it that most people think that their property taxes are so high? What's the reason why they always tell you, Mayor? Because it's the village, or what else?
It's because the poor, I mean, the middle class, we take care of the poor and the rich.
So that a reason why I constantly heard while growing up in Park Forest was because we didn't have businesses. That was the number one thing that would always happen. None of those things are true. The reason why your property tax bill is as high as it is because right now the state of Illinois is not contributing their fair share toward our public school education. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we've taken a look and we've seen that only $56 million made it to Proviso Township High School. Where did that money come from? So what we do is we click on where it says District Environment, and then we click on where it says District Finances. And again, this is all public information. This isn't a special website that I have access to as an attorney. It's all our tax dollars, and this information has to be available because it's our tax dollars. We're then going to look at the revenue percentages. And when we look at the revenue percentages, this pie chart tells us where did the money come from. So up top, that first pie chart is for Proviso Township High School. The second pie chart is the average for the state of Illinois. The percentage that came from the local community is 72.5%. It's unreal. Almost 3/4 of the funding was asked to come from you all.
And we don't have the money.
Don't have the money. The state said, for your troubles, here's 17.4%. That's less than the average. The average for the state of Illinois is 63% from the state, which is still terrible, but it's better. I'm sorry, 63% from the local community and 24% from the state. So the average for the state is only 24%, 1/4. That's how much the state typically contributes. But in Proviso, they said, we're not even going to give you a quarter. You get 17 cents on every dollar. And that's the reason why one, the schools are underfunded, but two, your property tax bill is as high as it is. Because in order to fund an $80 million high school district, it takes a lot of money. It takes $80 million. In order to collect $80 million, you have to get a high percentage from each one of the property owners because they're contributing 72% for every high school that's in the district. That's the problem. And furthermore, we can see it's a problem because, again, all of this information is public record. So what does someone think that the median household income is in Broadview? $55,000. Well, we're going to find out with certainty based on the census numbers. So Mayor Thompson is right on the money. $56,798. That's the median household income in Broadview. Now, another important number that we need to look at is what's the median property value? Well, it's $177,000. If our property taxes are funding our public schools, what percentage of $177,000 do we need to take to come up with $80 million? That's what's happening. Right now, the state is saying people who make $57,000 a year and own a house that's valued at $177,000, go pay for your $80 million high schools. How well is that going to work out? Exactly like it is, where our schools are funded at 70% and our tax bills are several $1,000s, and we only have $57,000 coming to us per year. And that's before we get taxed. And most of us don't, myself included. I do. I work really hard. Yes.
Okay, well, the state is always hollering about the lottery money. What is it, all that money, they're supposed to be funding the schools. Allegedly, they got that rolling. It can get to $1 billion. Can you imagine them giving that $1 billion to the school systems? And
yes.
helping out?
Great comment. And I love when that comment comes up because we were all sold that bill of goods. It was back in the 90s. Governor Blagojevich said we're going to privatize the lotto. And I remember it because the commercials would run all the time. And it was the classic case of somebody having an idea but not doing any of the research or homework that's necessary. So the lottery money was privatized. At one point in time, the state handled the lottery. And then they said, well, let's privatize this, because normally when you privatize things, they become more efficient, you can make more money, which was true. And the deal is that by privatizing it, the private company was going to share the money with the state, and that was going to raise more money for the schools. Well, it did. It absolutely did. It raised millions of dollars. But how much money does Proviso Township High School need? 80, all by themselves. It didn't raise enough money to close these gaps. So the idea is it's going to raise more money and that will fix our schools. Well, they were partially right. It is going to raise more money, but not enough to fix our schools, because one high school district alone is short $24 million. So whenever you see those press releases that come from our fantastic elected officials saying that we've given $350 million more towards our public schools, and then everybody stands up and claps, that's nothing. That wouldn't even cover the deficit that's probably right here in Broadview for the 6 school districts, because that's how much money is needed to fund public schools. We're talking $80 million for 3 schools. There are over 10,000 schools in the state. That's the kind of money we're talking about. But I want everybody to see what it looks like in reverse. So we're going to circle back to 208, but I want everyone to see what a school district that is properly funded looks like. So everyone should have that handout that says the Village of Northfield. Does everybody have that sheet of paper? What is the tax rate for the village of Northfield? 7.1%. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out how is it possible that the village of Northfield can have a tax rate that's so low. The village of Northfield sends their children to the high school of New Trier. Anyone ever heard of New Trier? So on that sheet, it should show what high school district. It should be 203. Perfect. Thank you. So let's take a look at New Trier High School, and let's see what their snapshot looks like. They have 2 schools. What's the graduation rate? 97. Would you rather have a 97% graduation rate or 88? Give me the 97. Remember you were asking about the mobility? What's their mobility? It's 2%. Because once your kids are in New Trier High School District, you're likely not moving them because it's a great experience. Remember what the district per pupil spending average was for Proviso? It was $18,000. What is it for New Trier? Still not as good as in prison, but I'd much rather it be $31,000 than $18,000. Now, here's the number that matters the most. New Trier needed $54 million. That's what the State Board of Education said they needed in order to be adequate. They received $110 million. No, not from the state. From the people, because they make more money. Because now, let's take a look at how much the median household income is and the median property value is in Northfield. Any guesses? What do you think the median property? $160,000. That's it. So that's 3 times. That's 3 times what Broadview's is. But that's only a part of the story, because the real part that matters is what's the property value. Because remember, your property values determine the taxes and the school funding. $743,600. And remember, that's the median. That means there's a whole lot of houses that are above and some which are below. That is approximately 5 times more than what Broadview has. So because of that, they only need to take a small percentage of each one of those houses in order to come up with $110 million. That's the reason why we are in this terrible position, because the money stays local. Our public school funding formula says 65% of the money to pay for your schools comes from your local community. If you live in a wealthy community, you've got tons of money. So now, instead of your tax rate having to be 14%, it can be 7%, and your schools are funded at a rate of 200%. This is the problem. This is why we will never see property tax relief. You can appeal every single year, twice a year, and you're never going to get true property tax relief because you're paying for something you can't afford when the state of Illinois is supposed to be. Yes, ma'am.
Why is it that the homes in Broadview are mostly the same and the value is so varied? I mean, it's variable how the difference is and how much each individual pay in tax.
Great question. So the question is, why are the property tax bills so different, even though the majority of properties in Proviso, Broadview are similar? So the reason why is because some people don't like paying a lot of property taxes. So they will come and hire an attorney like myself and say, will you please challenge my assessed value? And because I'm very good at what I do, I say yes, and then I win their appeal, and the assessor and the board of review drops the value drastically, which then means that they pay a much lesser amount than people who don't appeal or hire an attorney to do so.
So, you come out even by paying the attorney and then paying your lawyer tax bill, because you gotta pay the attorney.
So our firm charges $300 as a flat fee. On average, we save our clients anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 per year. So I'm not, because, and I'm saying I'm not, because I don't like doing property tax appeals. I hate it. It is, exactly. Because this gentleman said it's a double-edged sword, because when I win that property tax appeal, the Village of Broadview still needs their budget. The high school district still needs $80 million. So what I did is I saved you money, but I pushed it all onto your neighbors, and then the levy has to go up. And that's not what we want to do, because we don't want neighbors fighting against one another. We want to solve the root problem. So that's why I would rather on a Saturday morning wake up early, drive across Cook County, and come talk to people for free and not get any money, but educate about what the true problem is, so that way the next time we meet with our state representatives and our state senators, we can say, if you guys don't introduce this new legislation, we're not going to support you, and we're going to find somebody who will. So I don't want to do property tax appeals because it's unfair. Yes, I might help Trustee Matz save $2,000, but now all of her neighbors have to now pay an extra $10. So did I really win? No. All I did was make one person happy, but everybody's now unhappy. And that's the reason why we have to stop looking at these Band-Aids. We have to stop talking about these temporary fixes. And we have to say, State of Illinois, we want you to follow the Constitution.
Mr. Attorney, before you go on to
Yes.
the next one, as it comes to the property tax appeals, it's easier for commercial and industrial partners to do the appeals versus a residential, because the discounted is much greater. So an example, so we had some appeals that took place in our industrial corridors. These are multi-million-dollar entities. They won the appeal, and some of them, we have like $2.1 million that they won that they don't have to pay into. So it reduced their value. The other issue that we had with Cook County was they was assessing commercial and industrial buildings that were vacant, and they wasn't paying their fair rate in the tax for the property taxes, even though the property, and so we have to make up for it.
So thank you for that, Mayor Thompson. And so that's partially correct. So, yes, so I want to make sure that we make it right. So commercial properties and industrial properties, they're assessed at a rate of 25%. Residential is assessed at a rate of 10%. So absolutely, and it's still at the same percentage that it is for us. So 64% for that industrial building was paid out. But the difference is that if the value of that property is $100,000, then their property tax rate is based on 25% of the value of the property, as opposed to ours, which is 10%. So that's where that disparity comes in. The other thing is that the assessor, when they calculate the value for our properties as residential homes, it's based on what are the other homes selling for. Whereas when it's industrial and commercial, it's based on how much money is that building making and generating. So you could have a tiny little building, but be generating millions of dollars, and the assessor is going to calculate and factor that into the assessed value. Right. So, and they do. And that's the reason why the Michael Madigans of the world and the Alderman Burks of the world have become millionaires. But if we change our public school funding formula so where the state of Illinois contributes the primary responsibility, then we don't have to worry about it. Because if your tax rate was 10%, just like everyone else's, then we don't have to feel as upset or as angry about what the assessed value is, because our tax rate is just like everyone else's. And that's what it is that we're working towards. So before I take the question, I just want to point out to everyone. So when Trustee Matz and I started this, and I explained to her that, hey, here's this great opportunity, as an attorney, I'm sworn to uphold the federal Constitution and the state Constitution. Our system and our Constitution says, this is from the Illinois Constitution. We're looking at Section 1, Paragraph 3, and it reads, the state has the primary responsibility for financing the system of public education. This is our Constitution, which was ratified 11 years before I was born, in 1970. Does anyone think that by contributing 17%, that is taking care of the primary responsibility for Proviso Township high schools? Raise your hand if you think that 17% is the primary responsibility. What would you, percentage-wise, think that the primary responsibility meant? 100%. 51. And why do you say 51? Because that's above the majority. So technically, it would be 50.0001%, which elected officials know well about, because that's the amount of the vote that's necessary. But at a minimum, 50.0001% is what the state should be contributing. But on average, they're contributing 24%, and in Proviso Township, it's 17%. This is what we have to work towards. We have to get the state to contribute at least 50.001%. And how we do that is by asking the state to change our public funding formula. Well, I want to say ask, demand our state change the public school funding formula. What needs to happen is, instead of the money going to the treasurer, Maria Pappas's office, and then going right back to the schools, the money needs to go down to Springfield. And then Springfield needs to send the money wherever the children are, wherever it's needed.
Right.
So all the money that came in from Northfield, it's going to go down to Springfield. All the money that came in from Broadview, it's going to go down to Springfield. And if if Proviso Township high schools need $80 million, Springfield sends $80 million. If New Trier needs $54 million, Springfield sends $54 million. In doing so, we can now reduce the property tax rate to 10%. And I say reduce because in Broadview, it's 14. However, in Northfield, what is it? 7. So theirs is going to get increased. Then more money is going to get added. So we're actually going to generate another $2 billion, not that lottery money, but $2 billion worth of new revenue. And then we're going to send that money wherever the need is. Because remember, how much money did New Trier receive? $110 million. They had enough to cover the deficit in Proviso and still have $25 million left over. So the money is already there. We're going to generate new money. It's simply a matter where now we're going to send it wherever the children are. It's not going to be based on zip code. It's going to be based on, do you attend school in Illinois? Yes, here's your money so you can be properly educated. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, what steps do we need to take to get this implemented? What steps do we need to take as far as talking to the officials to try to express to them the way you've just shown us, black and white, as in layman term as it can be, to say, we've been doing it this way for so long, it's not working.
Yes.
It's like you're strangling us,
Yes.
It's just so much stress that you could put on a person.
Absolutely.
But if they were to do it, I'm looking at it as a huge melting pot, the way you just portrayed it. You looked at, okay, so the other district would have to come up. They're at 7% now. They will have to meet the 10% across the board, which would allow more funding into that
Pot of money.
pot of money. Exactly.
Yes. So that's a great question, and that's the question that we constantly get whenever we do these workshops. And our answer is always, how many people do we have here? Not many.
About maybe a third of,
15. Exactly. So we couldn't even get 50 people to come out to a free workshop where you could learn about this. So, perfect. But let's say that there's 500 watching online. How many residents are there in the village of Maywood alone? Broadview. 8,000. So we couldn't even get 1%. This is the reason why our elected officials don't do anything. Because the majority of people don't know what the true reason is, because before you all came out today, did you have an awareness of this? No. And most people don't. So does anyone remember in 2019 when the Fair Tax Amendment was on the ballot?
they took it off.
Nope, they didn't take it off. It was on the ballot.
I mean, but now it's still on there?
Nope. So it failed.
That's what I said.
So the fair tax was a proposed amendment to the Constitution that said, instead of us having a flat income tax rate of 4.95%, we would have a marginal income tax rate, which means the more money you make, the larger percentage you contribute. However, when that when that amendment was proposed, nobody knew what it was because there was no education around it. They simply put it on the ballot, hoping that people were going to understand what it was. And then the PACs, the special interest groups, the people who made over $1 million said, we don't want this. And they ran commercials saying, do not support this because it will kill small businesses. And they played fast and loose with the facts. Because are there small business owners who make over $1 million? Sure. Is that the majority? Absolutely not. So would a few people have said, I'm not going to be here because of it? Maybe. But in reality, it would have generated billions of dollars of new revenue. But because no one educated the public, it failed. We do not want a repeat of that. Because if we do, we're going to end up with the same result. So to answer your question, we need for you and everybody here to invite people onto our Zoom calls. Every first and third Wednesday, we do a Zoom call. And that Zoom call is at 7 p.m. And I'm going to put the details for that on the screen. But we need for every single first and third Wednesday at 7 p.m. for everyone to invite people onto the Zoom call. So that here's the meeting information. I'm putting it right up there. It's 811-3798-0476. And then the passcode is 094691. But we need for at least 10% of the voting electorate to be aware of this, because When we introduce this as a constitutional amendment or as legislation, do you think that the people who reside in Northfield are going to be in support of this? No. If I came to you and said, I want to increase your tax bill 30% and then send all that money to Northfield, would you support that? No, of course you wouldn't. But that's what we are going to be proposing. The reason why we are confident that this will pass is because 66% of all municipalities in the state of Illinois are going to see a reduction in their property taxes and an increase in their school funding. We just need for those 66% of municipalities to be educated to know that they're going to benefit, so when the attack ads come and all of the campaigns against it come, they still won't be moved by that. They'll know we have to vote for this because it's to our benefit, and we won't do a repeat of what happened with the fair tax. So what we liken ourselves to is we are like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Does anybody remember or no? So back when I was a little boy in the 80s, we would get the police blotter in the Star newspaper. And people were getting killed by drunk driving every single week. It was every single week. I thought that was just part of life because it was that prevalent. And then in the 90s, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving organization galvanized. And they even came to my high school. And I remember hearing them and saying, this is a good idea. We need to not let it be okay to kill people as drunk drivers. It seemed to be pretty basic to me. Like, why do we even need this? But it was because the legislation in the state made it so where you could kill people and not have any real consequences. Well, if the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they mobilized, they went out, they took their message to Springfield, they took their message to the Capitol in D.C., and now the state of Illinois has some of the most stringent DUI laws in the whole nation. But it took time because they had to get enough people to care and support their movement. And that's what it is that we are doing. So Trustee Matz and myself, we have been at this for 4 years. Every first and third Wednesday for the last 4 years, we show up. There have been some times where she and I talk to each other, and there have been some times where we see 20 or 30 people. But our hope is that it will grow. And our hope is that, Mayor Thompson, you'll invite us back out, and hopefully you all will tell more of your friends and neighbors and family, you need to show up. You need to learn about this because you're right, we are being strangled. How many people here know somebody who moved because the property taxes were too high and they went to Indiana or they went to Wisconsin or wherever else it is that they thought they could see refuge? It's going to keep happening because every year when some people win their appeals, the tax burden gets spread out, the levy goes up, and then at which point the tax bill is higher. In Park Forest in 2015, when I started doing these kinds of workshops, the tax rate was 30%. As of this most recent tax bill, it's 47%. In less than 10 years, it went from 30% to 47%. So that means in the next 10 years, it's going to possibly be 60%. Nobody's going to be able to afford that. Not when you're making $57,000 and your house is worth $177,000. It's unsustainable. And more importantly, we end up with our children not getting what they deserve. So to answer the question in the long-winded approach, we need more people to attend. We need more people to be educated because Trustee Matz does an incredible job of getting us in front of our legislators. Just this past Wednesday, State Rep Debbie Myers-Martin participated in the entire call. But when it comes time for this to go onto the ballot, if we aren't knowledgeable about what this is, we're going to just repeat the same thing that happened in 2019, where a majority of us vote against it, even though it would help the majority of us. So it's the knowledge piece, and the knowledge can only happen with showing up. because it doesn't take long. How long have we been here? An hour. And in an hour's time, do you fully understand what the problem is? That's it. I'm sorry, what was that? You say you don't?
Not fully, but
Okay, there you go. So I should have used that, so you're right. So I've been at this since 2006, and I will say I don't fully understand it. But that is me. That's Trustee Matz, right? well, thank you. Yeah, that's. Thank you. So, the goal of these workshops is to educate. And again, we do it every first and third Wednesday. We are willing to do it other days of the week. On November 8th, next Wednesday, we're going to be doing it in Matson. On Sunday, the 12th, we're going to be doing it at Victory Apostolic Church in Matson. If you have a church, if you have a civic group, if you have a block club, if you have a homeowners association, we will come to you. There's no cost. We do this for free. We pay out thousands of dollars a year in marketing and advertising to try and get this word out. And the reason why is because we live here too. The tax rate in Lansing, where I own a home, is 19%. The tax rate in Olympia Fields, where Trustee Matz owns a home, is 17%. So we have a higher tax rate than Broadview, in Proviso Township, in Hillside. So we all stand to benefit. And again, all of our children deserve to have a quality education. It shouldn't be if you were born to parents in Northfield that you get a better education than someone who was born to parents in Broadview. It should not be that way. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
It seems like somebody is looking at our home. It seems like the more you do for your house, and the better upkeep that you do, like new roofs, wrought iron fence, all that, you gotta pay more tax.
So
some people just don't.
So you're partially correct. So because our system is set up the way it is, the more valuable your property is, the more you're going to pay. However, do you think that those homes in Northfield have holes in their roof? Do you think that those homes in Northfield are dilapidated?
They have holes if they got squirrels, but.
I promise you the homes in Northfield have fantastic roofs. They are kept up amazingly well, but they are only being asked to contribute 7% of what the value of their homes are. Broadview, whether you have holes in the roof or you don't, you're being asked to contribute 14%. So you're paying twice as much. So for less house. I don't want for us to get distracted by the assessed values that get put on our homes or the fact that the assessor is not always getting it right, because it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are being asked to contribute twice as much for half the value of home, no matter how great the roof is. So whether you let it have holes or you get them patched, you're still going to pay twice as much for half the value of home, really 4 times the value of home, as someone in Northfield. And that's the part that's not fair, and that's what we have to fix.
So we need to march, or what do we need to do?
So you need to invite everybody on your block. And I feel like you would be very persuasive at getting everybody on your block to come back. So the next time we come out to Broadview, I want for the entire row that you're sitting on to be every one of your neighbors.
So, this meeting, you probably have it at your home or whatever.
Yes, so those meetings are on Zoom. That's okay. So we're going to work with Mayor Thompson, and we're going to come back, hopefully in December, if there's some time that's available. We're going to come back here. And when we do, I want to see you and 10 of your closest friends. I don't care. I don't care if they live on your block or not. So as long as they're with you, yeah, if they're a resident of the Illinois, that works for me. Any other questions? Okay, well, I would like to thank you all for inviting us. Thank you, Mayor Thompson. We should give her a round of applause for inviting us out. And our hope is that, again, please bring your friends, bring your family, bring your enemies. Have them join the call, have them come in person. We have to increase the knowledge, and when we do so, we will see the results. So thank you, Mayor Thompson.
Oh, thank you. Was it good information? It was good information. So Attorney Reed and Trustee Reed, thank you all for being here today and informing us. I'm a real big advocate for educating our community on what best practices are and how we look at the big picture of how we operate in the village of Broadview, and it starts with the residents. So I appreciate you all taking some time out of your day to come be informed. We will get the video out in the email. If you have, your neighbors, they can go to our website. It'll be on our website. It's on YouTube now, and it's streamed live, so it's recorded. It's also on social media, on our Facebook page, because it's streamed live today. So you have access to this information, but if you want to join the other calls, what I'll have the staff do is send out the the flyer that they have with the Zoom link. So we'll make sure that all of our seniors that don't have access, that we help you get technology and help you get so that you can see it. Okay? All right, thank you all. I love you, and God bless you. The Broadview Dream Center is opening up today at 2 o'clock, so we invite you all to come to the grand opening of the Broadview Dream Center. It's a co-working space, virtual office, to give entrepreneurs an opportunity to build credibility within their own respective business. So if you have a home-based business and you use your home address, get you a business address so that you have more credibility so people come and shop with you. So thank you.